Hey everyone, this is Randy from BibleBuyingGuide.com. Today I'm taking a look at the Fresh Look Bible, which is a panorama of the entire Bible, and each book of the Bible is on a page. So this is from Joshua Paul Smith, and he did supply this in exchange for an honest review. And I'm looking today at the PDF version, and it comes in several different options. When you buy the PDF whole Bible, you actually get 3 different PDFs. You get based on color coding. And he has 3 different levels of color coding. The first is the complete color code. And what that does is it colors the text itself. The fonts are printed in color. You have the complete color code. Then you have the essentials, which is a stripped down version of the color code. It doesn't have as many things colored. And then you have black letter, so you can read it without the color coding. Now, there's a lot of formatting to this. All right, first of all, what this is a King James in a paragraph format. I like the idea of having a King James in a readable format with lists that look like lists, poetry that looks like poetry, letters that look like letters. And what Joshua Paul Smith has done is taken that even further. You can read it as normal, or you can pay more attention to all the tiny detail things that he's added, and it is really good for study and for reading. It's simple and complex at the same time. So let's take a look. All right, so I'm looking at a pre-release version of this that's not quite done yet, but it will be done soon. All right, so first of all, we have the table of contents, and just select a book, and it takes you to that book. And this is the entire book of Revelation right here. You zoom in. Now, I'm looking at it on a Fire tablet, which is not the fastest out there. So you might see a few seconds of refresh, an extra second or two to refresh to see it. But then clicking on the book name again takes us back to the table of contents. Then we have an explanation of what everything is. So we have our copyright, our simple narrative. So when the text, and as you see, it is in paragraph. So we have formatting such as paragraphs, dynamic spacing. So small spaces indicate small changes. Larger spaces indicate larger changes, like a scene change, and even larger, bigger changes. And so let's see, he's still working on this, but he's almost done. In fact, he'll probably have the complete thing done by the time I post this. So we have dialogue and discourse, narrative, dialogue, second level quotes. So we have different types of fonts depending on the types of text that it is. And he explains every bit of this. That's what I like about this opening here. It explains the whole thing. There's conditional law. So here are the conditions, the commands. Then we have general poetry with couplets, stanzas, triplets, and we see the spacing between each one. It looks complicated, but it's all explained really well. Here's an acrostic. So we have the Hebrew letters. For the acrostic, the Hebrew letter for that acrostic is placed at the beginning of each verse. So in this case, it's a different letter for each verse. And then here we have another example of it. Here is the color code. So there are a lot of colors, but it explains what they are. For deity, so the colors explain who, what, where, when, and how many. So we have colors for deity, angels, man, demons, flora and fauna, location, time, and quantity. And you can see the colors change through that. And then here's an explanation of what each of the colors means. And then it gives you an example of what the text looks like with those colors. And then, of course, you can read one of the 3 PDFs. You can read it with all the colors. You can read it with just the reduced set of colors, the essentials, or you can just read it with black, just black letter. Speaking of letters, letters are boxed in. So you see this boxing around it. So in this case, we have a narrative, then we have a letter, and then we go back to narrative. Decrees, same thing. A decree is boxed in. So you can actually just look at the text and see these. Here's an epistle. An epistle has the sender, the recipient, the greeting, the body, and the closing. And he has formatted it so that each section works like this format without making any changes to the text. No changes to the text. This is just a King James text. So you get to see each book in a panorama. So there is the entire book of Genesis. Each book has an opening with an overview. And the overview gives you a simple explanation of the book, and then it gives you a detailed outline with the references. Now, all the sections inside the outline, those become section headings in the text. These large headings in the beginning of the sections. All right, so then we also have the color code, and if there are any special features, they're explained here also. So we can just zoom in and read. All right, so now we have lines down the side. These are main topics and subtopics. So you can think of them as section headings. So we have the beginning, and then we have day 1, day 2. If it's rounded, that's the beginning of that section. If it's squared, it continues this section. And that's the case for the top and the bottom of the section. And they're color-coded. So you can see how fast my tablet refreshes there. This is my preaching tablet. So let's go back to our table of contents, and let's look at the book of Psalms. One of my favorite books in the Bible. And the reason I want to show you Psalms, it has some special formatting that looks really interesting. So we have our overview with the color code. That's standard for all the books. It gives you the outline. Then we have authors, a different color for each one. Then we have some elements. Now these letters, we will see those letters next to some of the Psalms. And then we have special features, and it talks about acrostics, refrain, etc. So let's just look at a few. So when you zoom in, this one gives you the special features, and then we say our stanzas. That's how it all works. So you could see the chapter numbers and then zoom around the book. It's fairly easy to do. When you're done with that column, and we have a column for each, let me show you what I mean by column. So we have, at the end of this column, it doesn't continue to the next book. The next book is a different page. So every book is on one page. So when we get down to the bottom of the column, we don't have to get back up to the top of the next column like this. When you get to the bottom of the column, you just hit that little gray box, and it takes you to the top of the next. So there's 24, 31. So when we get down at the bottom of 31, hit this, and now we're at the top of 32. Now, a faster tablet will work a lot better than this. This is a Fire tablet, and they're underpowered when it comes to actual tablet usage. All right, so this one is the complete color code. I have all three, plus I have an individual book. The individual books are interesting. So first, let's look at the next one. This is the complete. Let's take a look at the next one. Nothing I didn't mention. This is red letter. So it is a red letter edition. Words of Christ in red. All right, so now this one is the essentials, the essential colors. So it doesn't have as many colors in there. Just the main points. Also, being a PDF, that means that you can underline, add notes, whatever you want to do, because you have all the tools that your PDF reader has. You can edit any way you want to edit. So sometimes we'll see a different letter. Go to the front and it'll show you the miracles, I am statement. So that's what the essentials colors looks like. Fewer colors. So let's take a look at the black letter. So here is our black text. Now, by black text, it's still a red letter edition. We still have the words of Christ in red, and we see different types of font designs based on different things. Dialogue is set apart from everything else. There's a list. It looks like a list. But the text itself is black. So we don't have colored names and colored things in there. But still a red letter edition. Now let's take a look at the book of Acts as an individual book. Okay, so this one is the book of Acts and no other books in there. All right, so it starts us off with an explanation of everything. And this actually is probably a better explanation than the other one I was just showing you. So we have our introduction, and it goes through all the features, single column, paragraphs formatted for literary genre, poetry in a poetic format, dialogue and discourse set apart, words of deity in small caps, letters, memos, written documents, contextual spacing, major list or charts, in list or chart format. It does have some charting. I like the way the charts look. Numbers displayed as numerals. And then we have the color code. Same example as before. Narrative, dialogue, poetry. There's major lists. So we have our narrative at the beginning. We have our list in the middle. Narrative again at the end. Complex lists. So quite a bit more list options than what I was showing you before. All books have the same tools and features based on what that book individually has. There's divine speech, showing what that looks like. So points to here. So the divine speech is in all caps. So it stands apart from everything else. Now this one gives you an example of the outline bars. A little bit of an explanation for those. So that shows you what the square and the round means for the outline bars. Shows you what it means at the top and at the bottom. Gives you examples of all of that. So it steps you through all of this. Shows you how navigation works. So if you need to understand what any of this is as you're reading, you can just go back to the beginning and see. Now this shows you the actual panorama, all the features. You start with your table of contents link, your overview, the Bible text, the vertical outline bars, next column buttons. Shows you your color code, your outline titles. That's what those right there are. Different types of lists, logo, link. All right, so Acts. Here's why I wanted to show you the book of Acts. This one file, you buy one book of the Bible, you get 3 versions of the book based on the color coding. So the first one is all colors. The second one is the essential colors. And the third one is the black letter. And you have all 3 in one file. Each one takes a single page. And you can look at a glance, just at a glance, and see, like you can see that's a list right there. So you can tell at a glance what something is. You can see that that's poetry. There's poetry. That little box right there tells me that is a letter. Just because it's outlined in a box. And this outlining right here, that 3 with the dots, and then this one up here is going to have a different number with dots. It's got the M. So what that does is it shows us in the beginning of the book special features. First journey, second journey, third journey of Paul. So there's Paul's journeys. So it's formatted well. It's easy to follow. You can read without even paying any attention to any of that stuff. So if you wanted to just read the Bible itself, well, just read the Bible. Just zoom in and read. You don't even have to pay attention to any of that. When you get to the end of the column, so there's a big space telling us it's a break in the location or something. There's a smaller space. When you get to the end of it, you just hit the button and go to the beginning of the next column and continue reading. So that's a quick look at the Fresh Look Bible Panoramas. in PDF. Now, I also have these in the printed versions, which are different sizes. Some are very large, and you have to hang them to see them. So I will be reviewing the printed versions later, but I wanted to show you the PDF versions first, get an idea of what these are. So I like these. This is interesting. I like the idea of a readable KJV. That's what I want. I want a KJV that it's the most poetic translation, in my opinion. I want it to have the most poetic layout. Now, this does get technical. No question about that. It can get very technical, but you can also just ignore all that and read it as normal. So you don't have to let any of that bog you down. You can learn it as you go. If you had a more powerful tablet than I do, which a lot of people do, if you had like an Apple iPad, it's made for an Apple iPad or something like that. Something with some power. The Fire tablets are one of the least powered out there. I mean, they're good enough for what I use it for, but different topic. But anyway, just a quick look at the Fresh Look Bible. I'll place a link in the notes where you can make a purchase if you're interested in buying individual books or buy the entire Bible at once. I'll also place a link to the written review with some screenshots so that you can see a little bit more of that, and also a link to the publisher's website with more information. He has more information than I can cover, but I just wanted to share this with you. It does look good. I like the way it works. I like the way it looks. So I recommend it. I like it. Thanks for watching.